Hello everyone, and welcome to TwstNotes, where I summarize the latest story update in JP. So here's Chapter 7, parts 269 to 294. The gang lands in Riddle Stream. Silver asks Trey how he did, and Kate's laughing at him. Trey is fighting for his life not just because of that, but also he lost his glasses. Apparently his eyesight's also super bad like mine, and he can't really make out faces. But this bitch doesn't wear them in his alchemy classes, so I've decided he's lying and a drama queen. Leona asks him if he doesn't have a spare, and he says he does in the dorm. It's also low-key impossible to look for stuff in the dream corridor, so he's kind of out of luck. Idia tells him to just imagine he has his glasses and it'll be fine. Ace reveals he saw them flying off during their transit and used a spell to grab them. Everyone praises Ace for having really good control over his magic that young. Grim, Deuce, and you immediately go for the jugular and say his control is because he cleans shit up before he gets in trouble, like eating snacks before class and cleaning that up, and staying up past lights out and cleaning up evidence of that. I don't know. Ace does not appreciate it, but Trey says he'll pretend he didn't hear it. They realize they're in Riddle's neighborhood in the capital of the Queendom of Roses, Crimson City. Ortho downloads a map of the area and notices Patissier Clover, which Trey confirms is his family's bakery. Ace wants to go there, but Kate reminds him they gotta wake up Riddle. Trey knows the way to Riddle's house, and the others are a bit freaked going there, even in a dream. Everyone is afraid of Riddle's mom. Before they can go to Riddle's house, a police car drives by with the siren on. Deuce is worried it's coming after them, and the car stops right in front of them, freaking him out even more. A cop gets out and tells someone in the back who's being super rude to him, based, to get out. The cop asks him to follow the rules, and the boy is revealed to be Riddle in a very sick-ass outfit. Riddle says he doesn't like the town rules. Kate mistakes him for a singer or a Magicam model at first before realizing it's Riddle. Everyone is shocked and refuses to believe it's Riddle, not just because of the incredible outfit, but because he's rude to a cop. Frankly, I cannot describe how extremely based this is. Anyway, he got in trouble for doing some street performance without the proper permission, and this is a regular occurrence. Chania pops up and says Riddle just sings whenever he wants, and Riddle agrees. The cop drives off angrily, and Riddle cusses him out in Queendom of Roses slang. Deuce says it's better the others don't know what it means. Chania and Riddle notice Trey and go over to say hi. Riddle hugs him and tells him he should have messaged him on Magicam before he came back. Trey asks what happened, and Chania says that they had a surprise live in front of the station. Or a station, they didn't specify. Anyways, they got stopped halfway, but apparently people did like the show though. Riddle is the vocalist and Chania plays the bass in their two-person band. They say it's only them because new members keep dropping out because of musical differences. And by that, I mean they change their sound every day from punk to hard rock, which I'm assuming they mean metal, idol music, and rap. They ask the others if they're friends with Trey, and everyone introduces themselves. Riddle invites them to join their band, saying they need a guitarist, drummer, and keyboardist, as well as dancers and a composer. Kate immediately offers to be the guitarist and offers Leona as the drummer. Leona tries to get out of it, but Kate tells him to shut up, and everyone realizes they might need to play along to get him to wake up. Ace and Deuce say they were in the VDC group Vil produced, and Grim says Rook told him he had a unique way of dancing. Ortho takes control of the synthesizers, Sebek says he plays a bit of violin, and Silver can apparently play the ocarina because Lilia taught him. The gamer dad jokes just keep going. Chania rips Trey a bit, saying he never joined when asked, but his friends are immediately offering. Trey says the only reason he takes any art courses is because they're required at NRC. Riddle is ecstatic so many people are joining his band and offers to take them to his house for tea. Trey immediately panics, saying it might be pushing it with his mom. Riddle assures him it's fine, and he has friends over a lot, so they have enough room for everyone. Not what people were afraid of, but okay. Trey absolutely refuses, saying he and Chania were never allowed at the house. Riddle and Chania both laugh at this, and Riddle reassures him his mom would love to meet them. Literally, though, I feel sick to my stomach thinking about meeting Riddle's mom. Everyone's extremely on edge about it too, making sure their clothes are perfect before going in. Kate asks Trey if he's okay, and Trey's not doing great. Kate tries to reassure him it'll be fine, musing that because of how Riddle is, his mom in this dream might, not be a giant bitch. Even Silver says the Hearts Lobule students do not like her, she has a 0% approval rating. They go to Riddle's house and Riddle tells his mom he brought friends. She says she's happy he did and has a very sweet voice compared to the last time we heard her. She says she only made tea for Riddle, so she asks him to take his friends to the living room and wait. This whole time, by the way, we don't see her, she's off in the kitchen unseen. The others come in and marvel at the fancy living room that's covered in family photos. Chania asks Trey why he's just standing at the entrance. Trey says it's his first time in Riddle's living room. Riddle's a bit confused, but then realizes Trey hasn't been in his living room since they redecorated. They talk about the family photos on the walls, and Riddle says it's a great way to keep family memories. Chania smells that Trey has sweets and asks about it. Trey confirms it's a strawberry tart. Riddle then asks about it, and Trey panics, so Grim comes in and says he'll eat it to get rid of it. Riddle immediately screams at him not to, that it's his souvenir, gift, whatever you want to call it, and that Grim can't have any without permission. Riddle shouts to his mom that Trey brought a strawberry tart and she's happy for them. Trey nervously asks if it's okay for Riddle to have it, and she says of course. After all, she buys the biggest strawberry tart the Clovers sell for Riddle's birthdays. And also generally, he has a slice twice a week as a snack. Riddle takes the tart to the kitchen for his mom to cut up, and once Riddle's away, Trey starts panicking. Honestly, he seems like he's having a panic attack, worried that she'll come into the living room to scream at them at any moment. The others urge him to sit down and take a breather. Trey is still pretty traumatized from that 5-hour lecture. Leona mentions it, and Chania is like, she lectured you for 5 hours? What the fuck did you do? Trey tries to play it off like Chania just forgot about it. The others take a closer look at the family photos and notice that Riddle is the only one in focus. The parents are like out of focus and blurry. There's also some photos of little Trey and Chania on the walls, from sports days to beach vacations between the Rosehearts and the Clovers, to Halloween trick-or-treating photos. KK goes on a little rant about his mom and sisters taking loads of photos and wanting things to be cute. His sisters are like really big into taking commemorative photos. Sebek says his dad is more of the photo taker than his mom is and has a load of professional cameras. Deuce's mom does a lot of pictures on her smartphone. Lily has an old Polaroid camera and takes a photo of Silver every year for his birthday. Ortho and Idia's parents keep a digital frame on their desks that rotate out photos. Ortho also says their parents asked him to take pictures to send to him, and this is the first time Idia's hearing of it. Ortho prompts Leona into talking, who says that they have an official royal photographer and a PR person who picks the best photo to actually publicate. He also says there's family photos in his dad's hospital room. During all this talking, Kate knows Trey's sweating and asks if it's too hot in there. Trey says no, but the reason he's sweating is he doesn't remember taking those pictures on the walls. Everyone is surprised, which I don't see why they would, considering they know Mrs. Rosehearts is, okay with beefing with 9-year-olds. Trey says he and Riddle and Chania only played as a trio for a month or two, and they didn't go to the same schools. Riddle has imagined all of these memories and all of these photos. Riddle comes back with tea, as well as a chiffon cake and butter cookies his mom made, in addition to Trey's strawberry tart. Everyone digs in, but notice the chiffon cake is hard and the cookies don't have any sweetness. Trey notices that she's cooking with a lot of substitutes, like not wheat flour and stuff like that. Riddle asks them what they think, and he says he loves his mom's baking. Everyone is a bit confused, and Ortho quietly wonders if it's not really replicating the taste of these things, but rather the appearance of them. Riddle asks the others if they're also mages, which they confirm. He asks them to play magical instruments since Chania always refuses to do it. Deuce is like, don't you have magic? Riddle's like, oh no, I can't use magic. Everyone is shocked. Trey points out that can't be right because his parents are famous magical doctors and Riddle's been trained in magic since a young age. Riddle laughs at that, saying his parents are both magicalists and his mom is a stay-at-home mom and his dad is a novelist. Because of how drastically different Riddle's dream is to his real life, everyone is immediately worried about how they'll wake Riddle up. Riddle yells at them to stop whispering to each other. He tells them not to keep secrets at the table and to speak up, which honestly, I think that's kind of fair considering in his mind he just met them, invited them over, and now they're being weird. Silver changes the subject and asks Riddle if he's at a normal high school. He says he doesn't go to school period and he hates it. Deuce immediately but gently argues with him about it, talking about his delinquent days and how staff and his housewarden at NRC help him learn and make school not too bad. He also talks about school being difficult for him in the past because things were hard to understand. Riddle says he understands lessons, but he still doesn't like school. He says if you're at a desk all day, you'll miss the fun things in life, and why would he want to read books without pictures in them? Sebek is immediately offended, but Riddle goes on to say if he does get bored, he'll ask his dad to tell him a story, which he will with Riddle as the main character. He also says if they want to request something, they can go to his study and ask. But yeah, he then says going to school and reading boring books is stupid, but he likes listening to his dad's stories while boating or playing croquet. Kate mentions croquet is a super popular sport in the Queendom, and that Hearts Lobule plays it a lot, with their housewarden being great at it. And also, they have a lot of rules. Riddle's like, damn, that sucks. What are the rules even? Your housewarden sounds like a real piece of work. Deuce starts to argue with him, but Ace tells him to stop. Riddle says he'd hate to live with that guy, and Ace says it's true he's strict and serious, but before he can go on, Riddle says he's tired of hearing about him and tries to change the subject. But Ace is like, no. I'm talking right now. Riddle is like, hey, that's rude, and Ace throws the whole no whispering or secrets and speaking up and stuff thing back at Riddle. Ace goes on to talk about his house warden, saying he's strict but at the top of his class and everyone looks up to him. Riddle tries to argue with them and talks about how they should be having fun at tea time, chatting with each other, but Ace and you point out he's been talking over everyone and hasn't really been asking about them or been invested in them. Ortho says Riddle can't read the room and would never want to be in a band led by him. Riddle is furious and kicks them all out of the band. Riddle's mom, still in her kind of sweet voice, tells them it's terrible how they've made Riddle angry, and the darkness appears. Leona tells everyone to get out right now, but Riddle and his mother yell and threaten them to stay. Riddle then says if anyone tries to leave, he'll have their heads. The house immediately locks them in, and Idia tells them the house itself has become darkness. Or rather, it always has been darkness. He also says it's constantly changing, and so he can't even unlock the doors for them or get them out. They realize Chania and Riddle are gone, and when Silver checks the kitchen, a flood of red tea comes at them. They have trouble closing the door, but with everyone's help, they get it shut. Everyone is confused on the darkness NPC situation, and Idia posits that the house has been darkness this whole time, and it's possible there were never NPCs and the house itself was talking as Riddle's mother. He goes on to say that in dreams, you still have a limit of what you can imagine, so when Riddle imagined having a kind mother, he could only imagine a voice and not his actual mother being kind. Leona then goes on to say it's probably the same with his father in the study. There's no NPC there, it's just a voice. Suddenly, something grabs Grim, Sebek, and Silver's legs, pulling them down. Riddle's mother says she won't let her son's friends go. I know I just said it's the house, but I'm gonna refer to it as his mom still. That's what the game has the name tag as. It's Riddle's mom. Yu says a woman's arm is grabbing them from the darkness and now everyone's being pulled down. His mother coos and tells Riddle she'll find the greatest best friend for him, and that his friends can stay for days. Sebek tries cutting down the now numerous arms grabbing them, but there's too many to fight. They continue to fight regardless and eventually beat them back. They hear Chania humming. Trey demands to know where he is, but he refuses to say. He does show up though when they beg him to help them get out, and he tells them they can't leave the Queen's house. He's asked to elaborate and he says no in a special Chania way. Leona gets fed up with it and threatens to turn the house into sand and immediately gets shackled with Riddle's unique maho. The others are shocked, but Chania reminds them Riddle told them if they try to leave, it'd be off with their head. Leona demands Trey use his unique maho to get the collar off, but when he tries, he also gets collared. Because he was trying to help and that's just as bad according to Chania. Leona then reveals he asked Trey as a test to see if it'd shackle him too, and to test the limits of the spell. Trey is not pleased about that. They theorize Riddle must still be in the house somewhere, but because everything is shifting, Ortho can't track him down. Idia says it's like the house is improvising on the spot, and although Riddle isn't moving, the house's movements are unpredictable. Kate then speaks up, pointing out more and more tea has been leaking into the room. Silver tells everyone to get on the table, but it's so giant they can't reach the top part of it. But then Trey realizes it's not the tea levels rising, but it's everyone getting smaller and smaller. Chania reveals it's because they drank something, not because it's a potion though. Trey says there's an old legend about people drinking stuff and growing or shrinking, and because Riddle admires the Queen of Hearts in a dream world, it makes sense for that rule to apply because that was a Queen of Hearts thing. I don't know. You guys know. It starts raining and everyone is having trouble standing. Some teacups and bottles float by, and everyone scurries to get in them for safety. They hear Riddle crying and realize the rain is his tears. They beg him to stop crying, but he can't. Things go from bad to worse when water starts pouring in. They beg Chania to take them to Riddle, but he tells them that Riddle's better off in his dreams, and he knows they came to wake him up, which, to be honest, I can't really argue with that. Not with complete conviction, at least. They say they can't let a magical prodigy like him just wither there, and that even though he's hurt a lot of people, he still fought for them, and no matter what, they're the Queen's soldiers. Chania finally agrees to let them meet Riddle, but says that they have to go deeper into the dream to do it, and they all get swept away. We cut to Idia in his room. He says that they've been pulled into the second layer of the dream, but they're at least out of the house now. He briefly mentions the cheat tool. He also talks about trying to analyze and recode ancient magic, but calls it like spaghetti code, and that the whole process is kind of a pain in the ass, and that they can't use the Thunder Spears for this and blames the others for it. You know, because he had absolutely nothing to do with that. He also talks about preparing for an IRL battle because he doubts Malleus would give up, or they could just calmly discuss things. He suddenly gets a message telling him that because of Briar Valley's cooperation, Styx has gotten a load of Mystium. He's thrilled, saying the prep for the final battle is almost done, and they just need to complete the cheat tool. Also, this whole time he's been trying to reconnect with Ortho and has been failing. He suddenly gets a knock at the door. He assumes it's Sticks dropping something off, so he says just to leave it at the door. The knocking continues. The voice on the other door says it's me, like this is FNAF, and Idia is like, who's me? And like we've all guessed, Malleus has come to visit. Idia obviously freaks out. He's really stumbling over his words, worried Malleus knows everything and has come to stop him. He knows their stuff was encrypted, but is still super worried. Idia asks if there was a house ward meeting that day. Malleus says he needs to ask Idia something and to open the door. Idia's like, oh no, and is like, we can't do face-to-face, can't we just do a video call? He says he's in an FPS game and can't get to the door, suggesting they talk later. Malleus insists on speaking now. This whole time he's been speaking very calmly, but he says he needs to talk with Idia right now. Idia asks what he wants, and Malleus asks if he's awake. We then cut to the destroyed Rose Garden and Heart's Lobule. Everyone makes sure everyone's okay, but they realize Idia's no longer with them. They suddenly hear Riddle yelling at some students because the roses aren't the right colors. They're shackled, and shadow versions of Ace and Deuce take the students away. Some other students whisper saying Ace and Deuce are now obedient to Riddle after their duel, which apparently was so bad they had to take time off school. They also call Riddle a tyrant. A shadow version of Kate comes up behind them asking what they were talking about. He tells them lying is bad and Riddle is not a tyrant. A shadow Trey shows up, saying just to follow and praise their house warden, otherwise their heads will be had. Riddle says he'll spare them this time, but he won't the next time. He orders the students to salute him and to march to the croquet field? Area? Anyways, they do, and he laughs, saying the right way to rule is through discipline and fear. His mother was right, and so is he. Ace and Deuce wonder if this is how things would have been if they lost to Riddle, but it's pointed out they did. They did in fact lose to Riddle. This is probably what would have happened if Riddle had injured Ace and Trey hadn't intervened. Riddle didn't overblot, but the situation with the dorm has become far, far worse. Trey says he was lucky he was able to overwrite Riddle's magic, but Silver says it wasn't luck. He says when his magic first manifested, his dad told him the first use of magic came from a strong wish, and wishes are a strong power, so in that moment, Trey's magic must have surpassed Riddle's. And then this bitch Chania shows up and mentions the Jabberwocky. Chania asks what's going on, and Ace is like, bad shit? And Chania is like, would you like to see worse? Like he's a bootleg version of the Ghost of Christmas Past or some shit. Ace is like, no, do not do anything, Deuce get him before he starts shit. But when Ace goes to get him, he easily evades. Chania talks about how easy it is to make Riddle angry and leaves. To where? He literally shoves Riddle over like that one vine. I mean, he actually just grabs his cloak while he's walking so he falls over, but the visual of Chania, like, shoving Riddle is too funny to me. Shadow Deuce and Shadow Ace go to help him up because, girl down. Riddle is shouting and realizes the gang is hiding behind some bushes and demands they come out. He assumes they're the ones that made him fall. He's confused by the real Kate, Trey, Ace, and Deuce. He lists everyone off except Ortho, who's off doing something. Riddle demands to know why Leona's there, and he's like, do you think I want to be here? And starts going off about how everyone's speaking in riddles and he hates it, and Riddle should wake up already because he's over these dreams. He tells him this is a dream created by Malleus. Riddle denies that, but Leona is like, why would I lie to you? What would I gain from that? Riddle doesn't have an answer for that. The shadow versions of the Heart's Lobule squad show up and tell him Leona's a corrupt prince trying to lead him astray. Riddle is comforted and tells the shadows to take the others to the courtroom. Trey begs Riddle to believe Leona. Riddle starts to remember. The fake Deuce and Ace come over and tell Riddle they all understand his rules and he's considerate of the students when enforcing the rules. Ace tells the shadow to shut up and stop being weird. Other shadow students start flocking to Riddle to comfort him and reassure him this is fine. Riddle says that even if this is a dream, he's happy because he's right and everyone respects him. Silver and Sebek beg him to listen to them, that he's being influenced by the darkness and that this isn't the real him. Riddle screams that it's off with their heads and the shadow students charge at the gang. Also, Ortho is here now. He says that there's over 100 people and Trey orders a retreat. Kate says they should split up so they don't all get caught. Trey orders one Heart's Lobule student for each group since they should know the maze well. Leon is irritated and Ortho says it's an emergency and they have to do what they can. He also says he still hasn't been able to get a hold of Idia. Ace tells you to follow him and the gang runs off. Even with the gang gone, Riddle is still having flashes of memories from reality. Shadow, Trey, and Kate tell him to stop trying to remember, that if he goes back to reality, everyone will hate him. He struggles for a bit, and Shadow Kate says they'll have the heads of anyone who tries to wake Riddle up. He stops struggling and says he can't let anyone escape his dream world. We cut to the groups in the garden. Everyone splintered off, and while it's not a battle map, we have several points focusing on one team at a time, like what the Halloween events do, that sort of thing. Let's start with Ace, Sebi, Grim, and Yu. They're running through the maze with Ace shouting directions. They've lost the darkness, so they stop for a bit. They wonder if the others are safe, and they realize they can't get a hold of anyone. Sebek says they need to go back to Riddle and the others as soon as possible. Grim asks how, and Sebek starts to climb over the rose bushes to get a better view when Ace stops him. Apparently the bushes are magic and are used for punishment, but also to lock down the dorm during public events. They can move, apparently. Suddenly something runs toward them, and Ace hides the others. Deuce runs by, wondering where everyone went. Ace notes that Deuce went with Leona, and wonders if they got separated or if this Deuce is fake. Ace whispers for the others to trust him, and he can't explain now, but to stay hidden. He goes to talk to Deuce and says it sucks everyone's gotten away, and says he's with him, turning into darkness. Sebek, Grim, and Yu are horrified. Sebek is worried he'd led them to a dead end, and tells the others they need to get out of there. Grim says there's not really anywhere they can go. Yu, on the other hand, says that they should take a closer look and wait before making a decision. The Deuce reveals himself to also be darkness. He asks Ace if he found anyone, and he says he found Sebek, Grim, and Yu, and that they followed him like a bunch of idiots. Naturally, Sebek and Grim don't take kindly to that. They go to attack the two while Yu pleads with them to just wait a moment and to not make any rash decisions. They make rash decisions and attack. Ace is confused, and when the others attack, he tells them to wait a moment. Grim's flames melt the wax he was using as a disguise, and it's revealed he is the real Ace. He was just trying to trick the fake Deuce into going a different way so they wouldn't get caught. Everyone starts arguing with each other, and then Shadow Deuce realizes he can attack the group, and a fight breaks out. The gang is not doing well, and Sebek is like, "This is all your fault, Ace." But he realizes he was too quick to act, and so the blame shouldn't fully be on Ace. He tells Ace to take Yu and Grim to safety, and he'll take care of the darkness. He casts his unique Maho and stuns the darkness. He yells at Ace to leave, and Ace grabs Yu and Grim, and they run off. Sebek passes out. We now cut to Deuce and Leona. They stop running, and Deuce is like, "Yu, Grim, are you good?" before realizing it's just Leona with him. He asks where Yu and the others are. Leona replies they're with Ace. He notes the smell of magic and roses in the garden is overpowering, and Deuce reveals not only does the maze change based on what Riddle wants, but it also changes depending on the day of the week. Leona says the dorm is a pain, which Deuce starts to agree with before stopping himself. We also get the info dump about the maze we already got from Ace, albeit slightly altered. Deuce tells Leona to trust him on navigating, as he only gets lost every so often. As they decide where to go, we get a Camp Vargas reference. They decide to go to the entrance, and they'll probably meet up with the others on the way. Shadow Ace shows up. He tells Deuce to be quiet as some Shadow students run past. When they're gone, Deuce demands to know where Sebek, Yu, and Grim are. Ace says they're hiding in a safe spot, and he complains about Sebek. He asks what the plan is for the three of them taking down Riddle, which Deuce is flabbergasted at. Ace points out Yu can't really fight. Grim and Sebek are no match for Riddle. Kate and Trey are also bad at fighting, so it's just them. He suggests he and Deuce act as decoys, and Leona uses his unique Maho to defeat Riddle. Leona's skeptical, and when Shadow Ace says Leona is way smarter than Riddle, Deuce realizes what's up. They argue for a bit, but Deuce asks Shadow Ace to recount his dream to him. When he dances around it, it confirms to Deuce and Leona that this is not the real Ace. The fake realizes it can't get out of this, so it reveals the truth. He attacks the two, and a fight breaks out. The darkness is spawning over and over and over again, so Leona tells Deuce to make a beeline for Riddle when he turns the rose bushes to sand. Deuce doesn't want to leave Leona behind, but has no other choice. The plan goes off without a hitch, and Deuce escapes. Shadow Ace continues to fight Leona, and their section ends. Next up is Silver and Kate. We get the maze info dump for a third time. Shadow Trey shows up and joins them. He says during the chaos he got separated from everyone else. He says he's worried about the freshmen and they should all regroup. Silver says he's worried about them too, and also the fact Ortho said he couldn't get in touch with Idia or Styx. They should all regroup and wake Riddle up as soon as possible. Kate asks Silver if he's gotten tired of fighting the darkness, and he reveals that yeah, he's thought that a lot of times before now, and that he's almost been consumed by the darkness a few times, but each time his father, or Sebek, or Yu, or Grim have reached out to him and given him the strength to continue. That sentence is hard to say, I don't know why. Kate asks Silver what it's like to have known and been friends with someone for so long. He says it's not inconvenient. Love that. Trey says he's known Chania since preschool, and we get some Kate lore that his family isn't having to move for a while, and his mom told him how relieved she was. He starts telling Silver about the early days of Riddle's freshman year, and then shifts into talking about how towards the end of the year, when they heard Colleen was going to be house warden, he asked Trey if they wanted to transfer to Scarabia together. This throws Shadow Trey off and he goes along with the story, only for Kate to reveal he made it up. Shadow Trey decides it's for the best to reveal the truth and not try to continue the charade. A fight breaks out between Silver, Kate, and the Darkness. Silver tells Kate to escape, but he refuses, and ultimately, their section ends with Shadow Trey calling for the other Shadow students to tie the two up. We cut to the last group, Ortho and Trey, and we get the great, the original, the totally new, 4th info dump about how the maze works and, its magical qualities. I feel like I'm stuck on the Jungle Cruise listening to the same jokes told over and over again. But at least with the Jungle Cruise, I get to listen to fun jokes, and there's the promise of churros or breakfast chimichanga afterwards. The only thing I get is no sleep because I leave in 4 hours for a medical thing. At least with this info dump, this one specifically, we learn Pumpfiore, Heartslobule, and Diasomnia are the oldest dorms. Trey starts talking about the garden and how past generations planted seeds, and not gonna lie, it's giving Hamilton a little. What is the legacy of planting the seeds to a garden you'll never see or something? I don't know, that song isn't on my playlist. Anyways, Shadow Kate shows up, and when asked why he's alone, he says he can only escape by himself. Shadow Kate says that they should meet up with the others, and Ortho agrees, saying he wants to wake Riddle up ASAP because, yeah, but also he can't get a hold of Idia or Styx and wants to know what's going on. Kate says he wants to meet up with Leona and Silver, who are more suited to fighting and more used to fighting the darkness. And like with what Kate did, Trey starts talking and tells a fake story to catch Shadow Kate in a lie, saying Kate was going to challenge Riddle before backing out. The darkness is outed and a fight breaks out. Trey tells Ortho to retreat and they start running. He helps Ortho get out but stays behind as he casts his unique Maho. He tells Ortho to regroup with the others and he'll be okay. He is the Vice House Warden after all. Several Shadow Kates arrive and find that Trey has, enclosed himself behind a narrow gap in the bushes, but has turned those bushes into metal so they can't easily get to him. We are now out of the weird map thing and back to regular story. We catch up with Ace, Grimm, and Yu. They're out of the maze and we see Leona, Kate, Silver, and Sebek have been captured and bound. Trey is brought to the group and the trio realizes they're in deep shit. Ortho and Deuce join up with them and they all get each other caught up on what's happened to them. Although the others captured are unconscious, Trey isn't and tries talking to Riddle. Riddle says he doesn't like to see his friends get beheaded and says if Trey continues to make him tarts as his obedient servant, he won't behead him. Trey refuses and begs Riddle to wake up. Riddle decides to collar him first. The freshmen realize they have to fight Riddle on their own, especially since they're completely cut off from Idia and Styx. Ace is pessimistic about their chances given the last time they fought Riddle, but Deuce points out he has his unique Maho now and it may stand a chance against Riddle. But Ace points out that all it would take to defeat him is one hit period, and they need to be careful about how they do this. Ortho offers to go after Riddle since his Cerberus gear can't get shackled by magic, but it consumes a lot of energy, so all he would have is 10 to 12 seconds. Deuce is somewhat confident he could cast his unique Maho in that short of a time, but Ace is a whole Debbie Downer about the whole thing. Grimm asks what he can do, and Deuce says he can protect you. They ask what they can do, and Ortho tells them to protect Idia's tablet. Ace asks what he can do, and Ortho tells him that if something happens to him and Deuce, to take you and Grimm and escape to somewhere somewhat safer. Ace seems a bit disappointed with that order. Deuce tells him he's counting on Ace to protect you and Grimm. Deuce and Ortho leave, and Ace is frustrated that other people are always saving him. Riddle asks a Shadow student for an update, but he says they're having trouble finding Ace and Deuce. Riddle says to bring them to him and to stop making excuses. We cut to Ortho and Deuce planning their attack. They're gonna have to get fairly close in order for Deuce's spell to actually hit. They charge at Riddle, who keeps throwing his unique Maho at Ortho, who's blocking it. But then he casts multiple elemental spells to take Ortho out. Ace, Grimm, and you are watching from a distance and see all of this go down. Grimm wants to go back to help, but Ace tells them to keep running. Grimm and Ace start fighting, with Ace demanding to know how Grimm would help, and that they were both told they would be a bigger problem than help by the others. He starts crying out of frustration. Ace has an inner monologue calling himself pathetic for running away and feeling extremely insecure and weak compared to everyone else. He compares himself to the other freshmen and feels like they're so much stronger than he is, and he thinks he's useless compared to them. He starts unconsciously gathering magic, and when Grimm and Yu point it out, he starts panicking a little. He calls out for Yu, and they tell him they can hold hands and they'll encourage each other. He hopes he can help the others with his unique Maho that's going on. Yu tells him they know he can do it, and Grimm joins the hand-holding, telling Ace he has faith in him. Ace calms down a bit and steels himself for the fight. Meanwhile, during this honestly very beautiful moment between the three, Ortho is getting his ass beat. Deuce is thrown off his rhythm, but before Riddle can behead him, Ace rushes in and casts his unique Maho, Joker Snatch. That sounds like a really bad British drag queen name. He manages to take Riddle's unique Maho and casts it, collaring Riddle. Ace yells for Deuce to go in with his unique Maho, and they defeat Riddle so hard he fully wakes up. The others are freed and they rejoin the group. Ortho is okay-ish, and says once they get to the Dream Corridor, Six should be able to communicate with them again. He and Deuce praise Ace, super impressed. He asks for details, but Ace dances around it, saying he'll tell him later after everyone gets patched up. As they're about to leave, the dream world starts shaking. We all knew this was happening, the dream's collapsing because a happy end is impossible. The darkness comes and Riddle falls through it, although the others tried to save him. We've done this before, we're pros at this by now. Also, Silver and the others escape using his unique Maho. Like, all the other times. Riddle wakes up in the darkness and he finds his overblock self in a destroyed rose garden. The overblock is threatening to behead everyone, and Riddle's like, this is crazy. The overblock does not like that. Riddle has his persona moment, and the overblock transforms into a phantom. And like the Housewards before him, Riddle changes into his overblock form and battles his phantom, emerging victorious. We cut to Riddle's fake living room and he's in his cute outfit. His mom wakes him up. She claims he nodded off while she read him a story. He laughs and says if he nodded off while his mom read to him, she would have lectured him so much he would wish he'd never wake up again. He also says his mom would never refer to him by an affectionate nickname, which she's been doing this whole time. Riddle uses his unique Maho to shackle his mom. The house. Anyways, the evil has been defeated. The darkness shows up again and Riddle falls through into Idia's room. Riddle is like, hey, what's going on? Me too, girl. And Idia's like, I can't talk, I have to get this app done, and the deadline got pushed up. He asks Riddle if he read the paper he wrote for the culture fair, and Riddle says he did and thought it and the presentation were great, except for Idia lip-syncing it. Suddenly, there's a loud boom, and Idia tells Riddle Malleus is here. If he breaks down the door, it's game over, and they're gonna have to redo everything. He also says they'll have to repeat this year over and over and over again for like 1,000 years, or at least I think that's what he's saying. Not gonna lie, it's like 5:30 a.m. as I'm reading this, and a bitch is tired. But anyways, Malleus knows and is trying to get in. And that's where the update ends. I'm tired and really hungry. I'm not gonna be able to get any sleep though. Maybe I can sleep in the car or something. Anyways, it was nice hearing my husband in the main story again. I have a lot of editing to do for this, so I'm just gonna go ahead and peace out after a quick thank you to my ladyfingers in waiting, Eel, Meechgal2189, Visa, Omimi, Yungumo, Farafo, Crabjail, Richter32, Yosuda Kiseki, and Ukaku. Thank you guys for your support. I really appreciate it, and it allows me to continue to do this. Okay, I'm gonna go get to editing. I will see you guys later.